Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld. In the previous episode we were dealing with a bunch of biters around the south and the west of the main base, as we have to do every few episodes or so, and now we are over in Iron Outpost 2 where, well, it's dead. I didn't think I'd see the day. This was a huge deposit when we first found it, and it has been the main supplier of iron for us for so long, but finally Iron Outpost 2 has simply run out. And so we're going to have to find some new iron, because I don't think the Iron Outpost 3 is enough to deal with the demand that the factory currently has, especially considering what's been going on recently with sending loads of extra materials over to Cape Kerbal. So that's what we'll be doing today. We'll be sorting out a new Iron Outpost and a couple of other things, trying to get the factory working nicely again after sort of ruining it by having it build rockets at a rate that it simply can't deal with. Anyway, if you haven't watched my other videos, you may be slightly confused as to why I sound so weird. I have a new microphone. I have a Blue Yeti, which was very nicely given to me by Avak. He just straight up sent me his old microphone, which is awesome. And I probably sound a little bit weird to you, but don't worry, you'll get used to it. This always happens with new microphones. Initially they sound worse, even though they're better, but in the long run, this should be very nice, and I expect never to use my crappy old headset microphone again, because it was horrible. And there was loads of background noise that I always had to remove from all the things I ever did before I could actually put the videos up. So anyway, we're back in the main base. We've parked the trains that used to work for Iron Outpost 2 in the spare train area, and now we're wandering around grabbing some supplies and so on. We need to go find a new location to put an Iron Outpost. I think we already had a look at the map, and I'm on my way over there now. I tried to use a train to deliver myself over there, but I ended up getting taken back round to the circuit area. But we'll go down to Iron Outpost 3 first, because we don't actually have it running at full speed yet. We haven't put in all the miners that we can, and parts of the deposit are not actually being mined, which is silly, really. I probably should have, in anticipation of Iron Outpost 2 finishing, because I've known for a very long time that it was going to happen, that, I probably should have come over here and put in some more miners. But we can get on with that now. There's just, one more column to do, and then a couple of bits on the end where it sticks out a bit. So we'll get that sorted, and that'll improve things a little bit in the short term. Well, in the long term as well. But the problem is at the moment that, we have nowhere near enough iron whatsoever in the main base. I think even with Iron Outpost 2 as it was, a couple of episodes back, we still wouldn't have had the iron production to deal with the demand that we're now facing, because we need stupid amounts of steel to be sent over to Cape Kerbal to keep up the supply for making all of the I think it's mainly for the rocket silos, also for the low-density structure as well. Now, I've realised in hindsight, looking at how I've built those two miners on the side, that I've been very, very dumb. So we're just going to ignore that and pretend it's not a thing, and maybe I'll fix it in a future episode. So yeah, we've got these all hooked up. We get the lines in place. I think it's still enough that one blue belt can deal with it, so we don't have to mess about with any of that stuff. And it'll help. It'll be about a 50% boost, I guess, to the production of iron ore over in Iron Outpost 3. But we definitely need, if not one, then two more. I said that backwards. We need, if not two, then at least one more iron deposit to get things working properly again. I'm thinking two, but I started looking at the map and I spotted, there's loads of iron deposits that aren't too far away that we can actually make use of. That's the thing of, we've always had more demand for copper than for iron, I think, and it means that we've had to go further afield to get the copper than to get the iron, so we've ended up going as far afield as halfway around the Great Lake to actually get the, well, it was to get a particularly nice copper deposit that would work for a particularly long time, but it means that our network has gone quite far out, and there's plenty of iron that is well in range of our lines, so it's not too far to go and get one. And there's one that is right next to Iron Outpost 3, in fact. It's a bit too far away to actually have it, belted over to that. I mean, I could do that, and it wouldn't, it'd make a fair bit of sense, because at the moment the trains aren't being fully loaded on their visits, but it's more fun to build a new station, so this will be the site of Iron Outpost 4. There's also a coal deposit right here, but we're probably not going to bother with that for a good long while. Our current coal outpost is more than enough to keep things running, because while we've wanted copper more than iron. We've wanted iron a lot more than stone and coal. So there's stone and coal deposits just everywhere, and we don't need to build any extra bits of rail if we want to get any extra coal involved in any production. I mean, I don't think we'll ever need another coal deposit on top of the one that we've currently got. Because it's just crazy in size relative to even like the first one that we used. Like, that deposit is the first coal deposit outside of the main base area that we've ever mined, which shows just like we don't need that much coal, even with all the plastics production that we need. That is actually going up, so we might need to boost the coal production, but I don't think we'll need any new deposits pretty much ever. But there's one here if we need it. Anyway, I've set up the miners now, or half of them anyway. I ran out of materials halfway through. I need to go get some more efficiency modules from the main base. So before I do that, I can start working out where I'm going to be putting the defensive walls and stuff. Because this is quite far out into biter territory. Even though it's right next to stuff we've already got, this is the furthest west we've ever built a base. And there are quite a few biters quite close to it. We're on the edge of radar coverage. I think actually, yeah, we are inside our current radar coverage, but a bit close to the edge of it. I usually like to have the radars a little bit further out than our bases to make sure we've got a good view of the biters. It means that we get the, like, as well as just occasionally scanning the area, we get a sort of live feed essentially when the radars are there. So that helps to anticipate any sudden random biter attacks that might happen if we don't clear out the biters often enough. So I work out where to put the wall and start putting it in, accounting for the coal deposit to make sure we don't have to mess with the shape of it later. It's better to have a sort of straight line the whole way through, because if you have any corners, they sort of work as weak points when the biters attack, unless you set them up very carefully. Also, I decided to have the wall extend all the way down to where the main line is. I could have had a branch going up to, like, right next to the deposit and have the train go there, but I decided that seeing as this is, like, the big main line anyway, you might as well have the wall defend the line itself, because it's going to carry on going outwards and more biters might attack from this particular direction because of all the pollution we'll be generating from the various iron mining operations we have here. So we get the rails in place, that's all fine, we've got enough materials for that. Though I think we are pretty much out of stone bricks, as well as some of the stuff. I think we're okay to actually make mining drills, but there's no point because we don't have enough efficiency modules anyway to fill them all, so I'd want to go back to the base and grab those anyway. We even have enough in the way of stack inserters. I think I'm requesting those, so that would make sense. I'm requesting 50 of them so that I could make like two full, I guess I can make 2 half loading stations or 1 full loading station, because this is a sort of half one. I don't think I'd really need a full one unless I was doing something crazy like the Mega Copper Outpost. So this will do nicely, I think. We do have things being unloaded at double the speed at the other end, but I don't think that's much of a problem. If the train hangs around longer, it'll be loaded with more material, so it works out the same way, whatever happens. So we name the new outpost Iron Outpost 4, and we can, well, I was going to start setting up the trains for it, but I realized that I parked the trains back in the main base. I do have a train on me, and I probably have enough materials to make the trains we need, but I'd rather just repurpose the old ones. And the interesting thing about these trains is I don't think they've changed in, like, literally years. The 2 trains that have been delivering iron from Iron Outpost 2 to the main base and to the circuit outpost have probably not changed in, like, since I made them, because I don't know why I would have ever done any rearranging with that. So these are, well, I wonder if these are some of the oldest trains in the factory or not. I guess quite a few of them will have just been around for ages, because I keep repurposing things. Unfortunately, it's sort of impossible to learn the history of them, unless, I guess, I went through old episodes and watched for the brief moments where I moused over them and we saw the names of the trains. Though that wasn't in place from the beginning of the series. It was something like 0.12 that introduced trains actually having names given to them. And I never really checked that stuff. I always forget about it. I think I checked the name of, like, the Mega Train just because it was a particularly important one, but I've never really paid attention to those. And I should, because one of them might have my name. My name is on the list of names that are drawn from whenever a station or a roboport or a train is built, and I am yet to see my own name appear in the game. I know lots of other people have sent me pictures of stations and roboports and stuff that have my name in their games, but I've never had it happen to me, which is probably just because of probability. There's so many names on the list at this point that you're very unlikely to see any particular one. I remember when I originally started playing back in, like, I think it was 0.8 was when I originally started playing years and years ago, like close to 3 years ago at this point. The name of the list of names was so short that I think I did see a couple multiple times back then. But the game has become much more popular since then, and a lot more people have have got that particular tier of the game. I'm not sure if that tier is even available anymore. They might have discontinued it or something. But anyway, I've completely stopped paying any attention to what's happening in-game. At the moment, I've just been in the main base, grabbing loads of materials. Spent half the time just stood in the middle of the factory having the bots deliver stuff to me. Annoyingly, they all ran out of power just as they were about to arrive, so I had to stand and wait for them all to recharge again. But we're grabbing a bunch of extra materials so that we can build, like, loads of walls and stuff. Just pick up enough for a good, like, 3-4 stacks of stone walls, I think. Extra efficiency modules, miners, belts, and so on and so forth. And then we go over to the spare train area where the 2 trains from Iron Outpost 2 are, and we can send them off to Iron Outpost 4. They can continue their iron delivering work. Here I am trying to move the wood train out of the way, and it took a bit of work. It's interesting that you can, if you move a train past a station by a small amount and then tell it to set off to that station, it still considers itself to be at the station, even though the it's like a square past what it should be. Or maybe it's once it gets to a tile length, then it moves, and otherwise it doesn't. It might be something put in place to fix like occasional errors that might happen with the trains not slowing down quick enough for a station or anything weird like that. So I send the trains over. I just park them up for the moment. I think one of them doesn't get started, doesn't start to get loaded yet because I haven't set up the power, but I get to work on that, and also putting the belts in place, and of course finishing putting in all of the miners. For some reason there was a missing miner there. I think it was just because I ran out while I was adjusting the positions of the miners and stuff. I like to sort of tweak the positioning of them to make it, like, the basic idea is that I want the miners to be as spaced out as possible, but I also want to try and make it so that they all run out at roughly the same time. So when I make a row and it doesn't line up, that you can have a 2 gap between each miner, but still not have it on like covering a bunch of empty spaces. I try and squash them in like that, and then I put the squashed in bits where the ore is a little bit more dense, so I try and make it so that they'll be mined through slightly quicker than the outer bits, so that they'll be synchronized a little bit more. Anyway, we get the power running up to it. Everything is in place now. We just have to put some substations in so that when we connect it up to the power grid, everything's actually running. I decided to try and make it as sort of efficient as possible in terms of how many I have. I get it down to 5. I don't know if I could have got it any better than that, so I'm happy with that. And when I plonk in on a long-range power poles, it sets it all running, and then I hang about for a minute to make sure that the belts aren't getting oversaturated or anything like that. Looks like everything's okay. It's just a little bit less than a full blue belt's worth of ore being produced, and we hop over to the train to make sure that that's all being loaded fine. I wouldn't expect it not to be, so yeah, we basically just go over to set up the timings for the trains. So I do a combination of like checking the other trains that do the same job. I realize I probably should have paid attention to what the timetables they used to have when they were in Iron Outpost 2 were, because I didn't, and now I don't know, so I just copied what the Iron Outpost 3 trains have. Though I think I made the times too long for the train that goes to the main base, so I end up shortening it in a minute when I get back to the main base, and it hangs around for ages after being like unloaded from entirely full to empty, and a lot less than the time I'd told it to stay in the station for. Though of course I can put in the command to set off once the cargo wagons are empty, and I end up doing that later. I forget how many trains I have that in. Now whenever I make a new save game, I always, like, pretty much without exception, make it so that all the trains will set off from a station if they're empty, but because this has been around since before you could do that, a lot of them don't have that setting, and I don't know if I've gone through yet and fixed that. It would help to speed up things in certain areas where there's a bit of train congestion and so on. Anyway, when it arrives and delivers all the ore, the iron system starts running a little bit better. It still could be a little bit better than it is, though. The problem is now that all the iron furnaces are running, but it's still not enough to make a reasonable supply of steel, really, because steel consumption has never been particularly huge, and now that's changed with the massive requirements for making the rockets. It's one of the, I think it's the item that the most is required of, maybe, because it's used in the silos and in the rockets in crazy numbers. I don't know, maybe copper is required just as much as, or more. I forget the exact ratios by now, but yeah, the train is set up so that the ratios are roughly right, and that should mean that everything's fine there. At some point we need to go back there and start building new silos, because at the moment we've just got it working on the next rocket in the first silo we made, and I believe I check at some point in this episode by checking the camera that you get when you look at a train in the train menu, and it so happened that the the rocket train was over in Cape Kerbal, so I was able to check it and see that a rocket was ready to launch. Though the plan isn't to like just start launching them all the time. The plan is to just keep setting up more ready to launch rockets, and then at some point launch them all at once. Probably when the series ends, because I feel at the end will be coming at some point, maybe something like episode 110 or 120. My original plan was episode 100, but I felt like I hadn't gone quite as far as I wanted to by then. I wanted to be able to launch like 9 rockets or something for episode 100, and I simply wasn't ready in time. So that's still what I'm thinking. I think like there's a couple of things we could still try and do, like go find a new lake and stuff like that, because so far we've only ever encountered a single body of water. Oop, and there I go, nearly dying. Well, let's talk about that. So I was approaching a base. I was initially using the heavier parachute to attack the bases, but I was annoyed about how slow it was, and I thought, seeing as I'm using destroyer drones and the flamethrower, I can probably get away with using the lighter suit so that I can move quicker. And the reason that works is that I can run in and run out without getting hurt, but I didn't change my tactic from one base to the next. So when I arrived at the base, I just walked in and set it on fire, and then stood there, waiting for it to all burn down. But while it was all burning down, it was killing me, and so I barely got out of there alive. I lost a lot of my my main health, and my shields were completely down for a while. The only reason I survived is because of the crazy recharging rate on the shields afforded by having 2 portable fusion reactors in the parachute. So I just about got out of there by the skin of my teeth, and learned an important lesson about not just standing and waiting for the enemy to die while they're trying to kill you. And I carry on using the lighter parachute, but I make sure to do the proper sort of hit and run tactics of run in, set it on fire, and then run away again before they can kill you. So we run around dealing with some more of these, putting in some radar outposts to cover the area a little bit better, as well as having some defensive, well, as well as being able to scan things. That's the main function of them. They can also provide a little bit of defense. I put 2 turrets in them, which isn't a huge amount, and it could easily be overwhelmed by a large force, but it means that all the little attacks get fought off, and it also means that a bunch of alarms get set off when the biters are trying to get past one to attack a more important area, because they spend a while just sitting there blowing that up. So set up a second one here, and I leave that for now mainly because I run out of materials to build more solar panels. I went and dumped all my solar panels into the into some storage. Actually, I think it went to some requester chests because we're using them over in Cape Kerbal. I went and dumped them out of my inventory because it was getting a bit cramped. Thinking, why do I even need those? I don't need any more solar power at the moment. I fixed it last episode, but of course I need them to build radar outposts unless I want to stand around crafting the solar panels for ages. So I think that's pretty much it for the biter killing there, and we'll leave it at the 2 radar outposts for now, and we'll get a bit more scanning done, and hey, maybe we'll find a new lake. As I was saying, the Great Lake that we have our base built on the shores of is the only body of water in this save that I've ever encountered. I mean, it's got lots of little bits of water around it, but they're all just like mini ponds that are sort of part of the lake. We've never seen another lake. There is only one lake, and there must be more out there. It's just that the terrain segmentation settings have made it so that they're extremely rare. The only thing is that because of the number of updates since this map was generated, I imagine that if I start exploring out into the wilderness, I will quickly encounter lots of, like, I don't know what to call it, I guess biome shearing, where, like, there's a very clear line where old map generation gives way to new map generation. So it might be that if we journey far enough, we start encountering the super high terrain segmentation that later updates started giving us, which would be a shame. Hopefully that's not the case. We could have a bit of an explore and see what we find. Might be a good way to end the series, amongst the other things like launching rockets and so on. Anyway, back in Iron Outpost 4, we get the wall a little bit better set up now, which is good because the pollution is being generated. That was the reason I ran out to get the biters, was because they were starting to absorb pollution that was quickly being generated. Even though we've got like maximum efficiency on all the miners, it still generates enough to create a considerable cloud. So we dealt with all those, but we'll also put in the defensive lines for the inevitable colonization attempts. This place is a little bit more vulnerable than everywhere else because it's just a little bit more west than all their other bases, so we'll have to make sure to keep an eye on it. Anyway, we take the train back to the main base. Seems like things are going okay with that. I keep checking the ores situation every time I visit. There was a little bit of a gap there, but it was enough, like the train arrived just soon enough to set things off again, but it might be an indication that we don't have enough ore coming through yet. So I think we definitely need another iron deposit to be mined, another iron outpost, and we probably also need to just like add in more steel smelting. At the moment, not all the steel smelting isn't working because there's not enough iron being made, but I think we still need more than we have. Like, I just went to go get some ammo, there wasn't any, so that's a bit of a problem. We definitely need to boost that, and that will be the main focus of the coming episodes, I should think. But that's pretty much all we have time for today. I'm just stood here checking and saying, yeah, it's not working too well. So we'll go back to the middle, and I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.